Welcome, everybody, to the Dell EMC Integrated System for Microsoft Azure Stack HCI. Wow, that's a mouthful. Session here at Ignite. My name is Peter Teeling. I manage the customer-centric cloud and containers team here at Dell Technologies. And with me today, two of my very good friends that I'll obviously let introduce themselves.
Hi. My name is Matt Rockus, and I also am on the customer-centric cloud and containers team. I'm a cloud strategist, and I focus almost exclusively on Microsoft Azure and then the Azure Stack family of technologies, with a special bent and a wonderful place in my heart for Azure Stack HCI. Jeff?
Thank you very much. Greetings, everyone. I'm Jeff Woolsey. I'm a principal program manager at Microsoft, focused in the Azure Edge and Cloud and Platform team. Focus on Azure Stack HCI, Hyper-V, software-defined technologies, but most especially hybrid capability. So it's a pleasure to be here. Excited to get right into Azure Stack HCI.
You know, one of the things that I hear about a lot from customers is, hey, we have really desired IT infrastructure outcomes. There's the things that we want to do within our data centers that we have to support our business. We want to make it as easy as possible. We want it to be as efficient as it can be. And we want to transform the way that our IT organization really approaches it. But the other thing that we want to do is we want to really start to accept and understand and make use of the public cloud, right? And Azure, bringing these things together at the same time. So that acceleration piece, not just to be hybrid, but to get there and take advantage of it as quickly as possible. And we don't want to learn 18,000 different things in order to be able to do both, right? We want to have consistent infrastructure, operations, automation, governance, everything that goes along with it. And we've been doing this for a while. And the kind of thing that you don't see up here is, well, sure, this slide starts at 2017, but if Jeff and Peter and I hop in the Wayback Machine to 2014, 2013, really, and we're coming out with the cloud platform system, that's where this all started. And then we move forward to 2016, and we've got Storage Spaces Direct, and then we productize it with Ready Notes, and then we move forward with Server 2019, and now we have integrated control with OpenManage integration for Microsoft Windows Admin Center. And then we say we have an HCI solution. It's totally and completely productized and packaged. And then today what we find is we have this integrated system for Azure Stack HCI, which is Azure. It's an Azure service delivered to your data center for the most easy to deploy, manage, maintain, and integrate for that hybrid acceleration. So I'm doing both the things, right? I'm modernizing my IT infrastructure, and I'm making things Azure hybrid. And so what is it? Well, this is Azure Stack HCI. And Jeff, you probably know more about this than just about anybody else out there.
Well, an Azure Stack HCI is these things. It's an enterprise class hyperconverged infrastructure. So everything you're looking for, software-defined compute, software-defined storage, software-defined networking, that's built in here. But the Azure Stack HCI advantage is we're bringing stuff from Azure into Azure Stack HCI. We're bringing functionalities, features, services, capabilities from the cloud on premises, so you're getting those capabilities. And then Azure Hybrid by design. The fact that Azure Stack HCI out of the box, all you have to do is register with Azure, and boom, it just appears in the Azure portal. There's no complicated scripts, there's no agents to install or download or any of that nonsense. It's literally, no, I register with Azure and boom, it's there. Now I can see it, now I can manage it at distributed scale. And that's really where it comes into familiar management and operations, because you can use your existing stuff. If you're familiar with PowerShell, guess what? You're there. If you're familiar with Windows Admin Center, if you're familiar with System Center, if you're familiar with the Azure portal, guess what? This all just works. And if you're familiar with all your third-party tools, they're going to plug right into as well.
So when we look at the solution architecture, not just the hardware ecosystem, and believe me, that's a very important piece of this in terms of delivering reliability, delivering performance, tested, validated, and certified and supported componentry at the base level, and then layering on Azure Stack HCI, well, that gives us, a really good start to do the things that we're used to, running virtual machines, Windows, Linux. But I think the really exciting thing is that we've got Azure Arc here, that cloud management that's in Azure to bring Azure into your data center. So this isn't just how do I get from here to there? It's what are the things that make sense to have on premises and I bring Azure to me? A great place to start with that is AKS, the Azure Kubernetes Service, because that enables not just container management, right? It also gives us a vehicle for the Azure Application Services, Azure Data Services. One of the most popular application services that there is something called SQL Server. And SQL Server, and we have another session on this specifically, but bringing Azure SQL into your data center via Azure Arc and having that on Azure Stack HCI, a fully managed SQL instance, wow, that's pretty awesome stuff, and allows us to really begin to realize that hybridity, did I just make that up? I think I did. Hybridity that we're looking for.
Well, and what's great about this is what it shows you is, number one, you have the ability to run all of your existing stuff. You want to run VMs, you want to run Windows, you want Linux, you're covered, you're set, you're done. When you want to run the new stuff and the future stuff, you've got containers because we have AKS on HCI. And it also means now that we can deliver Azure services like app services, data services, and even more. And of course, the big announcement we made yesterday about Azure Virtual Desktop coming to HCI, we're delivering more services on premises. So what we're doing is with Dell and Microsoft together, we're building you these Azure Stack HCI solutions that are really future-proof because they run your existing stuff, they're going to run the new stuff. And of course, this can be all cloud managed through Azure Arc.
Yeah, and one of the things to add there, right? I mean, when you look at the AKS platform, Azure Kubernetes Service, a lot of our customers that we've talked to from an overall cloud perspective over the years have said, well, setting up Kubernetes, that's hard, it's difficult. Matt and I, and maybe even you, Jeff, have tried to set this up in the past on different platforms, right? And it's not easy. Setting up Azure Kubernetes Service on Azure Stack HCI, literally, guys, 40 minutes of work. And it's done. And Microsoft makes sure that it stays up to date. Oh, you want to go from version 1.18 to 1.19? Windows Admin Center will tell you there's a new version. You hit update, and your whole Kubernetes environment is updated. Easy buttons. That's what this is all about, because we want to focus on the applications and not so much on, let me maintain the infrastructure.
Right. Nobody likes being in the business of rotating the tires, changing the oil, replacing the wiper blades and all of that stuff. And that's why we've done this the way that we've done it in our partnership with Microsoft. I said it before, this is fully productized. Right? This isn't a DIY, fly by the seat of your pants kind of, hey man, I hope this works. This is tested, validated, certified, supported. We've taken all the guesswork out of what components and how to build it and how to put it together and deploy it as a cluster. We've got a number of different offerings in here, 1U, 2U, high core counts, low core counts, memories out, all of that stuff focused on the performance that you require. Make no mistake. I mean, there's so much performance in here that Lamborghini is like, hey, you guys are taking a page out of our book, right? But not just the performance, but the stability, right? Maybe something that certain car manufacturers can't talk about, but we can because we've integrated the lifecycle management. Absolutely, you're going to have to update these things as time goes on. Driver revisions, security holes that need to be blocked, all of that stuff. But everything from the cluster creation to one-click full stack cluster aware updating. And not just the BIOS drivers and firmware, but all the Microsoft bits for Azure Stack HCI too, delivered together to give you a cloud-like experience from a maintenance footprint. Sure, Microsoft takes care of all of the care and feeding of the hardware and the hypervisor and the management layer and all of that stuff in Azure. And all you have to do here is press that one button and we do it for you. So not that big a difference, not that huge a leap in terms of how do we manage and maintain this, and available everywhere. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, what are the use cases and workloads? Because, hey, we don't have any use cases and workloads for you. You're the ones that have them based on the business that you run, the services that you deliver, the things that you manufacture, the customers that you interact with, and where, when, and why you do that. And so, sure, the easy button here is, hey, we're going to refresh our existing Hyper-V infrastructure from 2008, 2012 R2, or 2016, even 2019 to Azure Stack HCI to get the greatest benefit and all of the hybrid use cases that we've talked about. But without that, right, we're not going to get all of the other things that come with this. Jeff really just talked about the big announcement from yesterday, and that's Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI, so that I can have my virtual desktops deployed and managed in the same manner in the place that makes the most sense, whether it's in Azure or as close to the applications in my own environment where I need to consume the applications that we're running. Remote office, branch office, new ways to think about how I can deploy, manage, and maintain at the edge, right? Without having to have a big IT crew there to be able to handle it. And not just doing it there, but having the line of sight to it from Azure. I can see all of my locations from Azure. I can see what their status is. I can see the workloads that are running there. I can see how I can positively impact what our business is doing from one place. And of course, I talked about it previously, high performance, latency sensitive applications like Microsoft SQL Server, the most widely deployed, consumed, understood relational database in the world, and tightly integrated Kubernetes, right? We are ready to take these applications that we have today, maybe they're monolithic in nature, and we want to modernize them. And we can do it here because we can modernize them on exactly the same platform that our existing applications are running on today. Security, Jeff, you talk about this all the time.
This slide just makes me happy. This is critical, folks, because security is just top of mind for everyone. Ransomware is just out of control. We have customers telling us that ransomware keeps us up nights. IDC survey finds out, a recent survey talked to IDC found out that more than 1/3 of organizations worldwide have experienced a ransomware attack or breach. Just yesterday, Satya Nadella pointed out that the cost of cybercrime annually is $6 trillion. And that number is going to just skyrocket by the time we get to 2025. What you're seeing here is work that we have done super closely with the hardware layer to make sure that we have a fantastic solution to protect. We're protecting the hardware root of trust. We're defending against firmware level of attacks. We're preventing access to unverified code. And what you're seeing here is secured core server. It's a whole new level of security we're bringing to server. And the good news is this has already been tested. It's already been proven because we've been shipping a whole bunch of aspects of this in Secure Core PC. We know that secured core PCs are twice as resistant to malware. And we're bringing that to secured core server. And you're seeing what that means in terms of TPM, in terms of secured core, in terms of the other features like BitLocker, cyber resilient architecture. I mean, we could literally spend, an hour on this slide alone. But the important thing to understand is with these latest Azure Stack Dell solutions, you're getting the absolute latest and greatest state of the art so that when you modernize your on-prem, guess what? You're also getting better security in addition to better performance and better scale.
Peter, you want to take us through what this guy is?
Sure. Of course, the hardware matters, right? And when you even if you think about going back to that previous slide, just in your head, right? I'm not asking you to go back to the previous slide, but security. it is not an afterthought. Here at Dell Technologies, what we do is we build the security as a fundamental building block of our platforms. Right? So when we design a system from the ground up, security is top of the list together with everything else that is in that system. Now, what we've introduced this past month is the latest generation of Intel processors, incorporating that in our 750 platform. The fun part about this 750 platform is it has PCI Generation 4. That means I can now put 24 NVMEs in here. And we've recently tested one of these systems, or actually multiple of these systems in the cluster, for a, let's say, large financial institution that was looking for performance for their SQL databases. And we were easily able to squeeze over 1 million IOPS out of each node at, yes, sub-millisecond latencies. So it's not only super fast, it's also the first one that's gone at the stoplight when it turns green. All right, so it's the fun part about this technology that, yes, it has the incredible software features that Microsoft brings to the table, but we know a thing or two about hardware. And when we use these components and we can totally make it shine, you're going to get the best of both worlds, right? And that's what this partnership between Dell Technologies and Microsoft is all about, and that we can bring to our customers so you can reap those benefits. Now, apart from the 15th generation Intel, we also have AMD options, right? The alternative. And what is so fun about AMD in this case, the AX6515 is a single socket system. Great for remote office, great for branch office, right? Being able to deploy these in pairs, 2 node clusters, because that's all you need. You don't need 3, 2 is enough. And being able to say, hey, I'm going to create a factory in a box, or I'm going to do retail in a box, and deploying these everywhere.
You've got 2 servers that can have up to 64 cores. You have 128 cores in 2U. So think about all those edge locations that you can update with all that compute power you can deploy, and then you can manage those all from the web, all from the Azure portal.
So nice, so easy. And you're going to be able to do awesome applications. Think of IoT, think of machinery, think of even AI and ML at the edge on a platform like this, where you just have so much horsepower in such a small footprint that you're actually going to be able to use these kinds of applications and drive your business forward, right? Because that's what it's all about.
All right. Well, it's not enough to just get these awesome systems out there, to get them cabled, labeled, rack stacked, give them power, and get them deployed. You got to manage it. And I can't think of any better person on this call to talk about this piece than Jeff.
Thank you so much. So, you know, I've said this a couple times, but let's just lay it out on the table. When you deploy an Azure Stack HCI solution, you plug it in, you turn it on. Guess what? The first thing you do, you go register it. Okay, plug it in, register it to my Azure account. Now, when I go to Azure, there it is. It's an Azure resource right there in the portal. No agents, no scripts, no nonsense. It's just there. Now, because it's there, I can see it. I can apply tags. I can apply access, role-based access control. I can add things like monitoring. I can secure it. I can patch it. I can do all of these things. Well, now think of this in a larger environment. Imagine you're a retail store with, say, 50 stores around the state, or around the country, or around the world. Instead of actually sending someone out there, you can actually do this all from the Azure portal. In fact, you can even use the app on your phone because it appears as an Azure resource. So now all of a sudden, my phone can be used to see all my Azure Stack HCIs. I can see their health, their performance, their monitoring, their logging, all of that. So not only that, now let's talk about, guess what I can deploy? Azure services. I want to deploy functions, Kubernetes service, machine learning, AI, all of these things at the edge. and again, manage them consistently and uniformly. So guess what? We now have a consistent way, a single control plane with Azure Arc. And if you're using Azure Stack HCI, it goes all the way down to the metal. That's the benefit you get with us, because you can go all the way down to Stack HCI where Azure Arc is built in. And so all of this means you can deploy more servers, more distributed, and solve one of the biggest challenges people have had. I've spoke to customers about this for the last 20 years, which is as they grow, their distributed management becomes a huge problem. Well, with Azure Arc and Azure Stack HCI, this is simply built in. It's just right there. It appears in the Azure portal, and you can start managing it easier than ever.
Yeah, doing it at scale this is the part that you're talking about, right? It's that, hey, certainly on premises, I've got the Dell EMC OpenManage integration with Windows Admin Center. And what that allows me to do is to bring together the Dell bits and have line of sight to all the information about the systems themselves. Because Windows Admin Center may not know, hey, are my fans spinning? Do both of my power supplies have power? Are they up? And so I want to know if there's a condition like that exists. Well, and that's what the OpenManage integration gives you, along with the ability to do the BIOS driver and firmware in tandem with the Azure Stack HCI OS updates. But everything being able to have line of sight to that from ARM. So ARM, whether it's in Azure or on top of Azure Stack HCI, control all my access and security from there. Have line of sight to my environments and all the automation that I'm using. How do I have this organized, and how am I making sense of it within my organization? And then how do I not only define, but how do I enforce governance and compliance across my entire environment? And to do it singularly, not individually going to each site and saying, now I want you to be like this, and then going to another one and saying, I expect you to be like this. You know when things are out of compliance and you can remediate. And then, of course, being able to deliver all of the app and data services across your entire enterprise. This is what I was talking about before with respect to, hey, these aren't independent of each other, right? These are all together. And with Windows Admin Center, I'm delivering the same kind of experience on premises, and then I'm able to consume the Azure management services as and when appropriate at the scale that I am. So on premises, hey, I want to have automated cluster creation with integrated deploy and update. That's right there, right? That's available through Windows Admin Center with our OpenManage integration. And the one-click full stack lifecycle management through the cluster aware updating, right? This is all really important stuff to how I deploy, manage, maintain my systems, not just day one, but how do I do it day X, right? For 90 days, a year out, 2 years out. So what does it look like? Well, Microsoft is providing us with Windows Admin Center, and then the Dell OpenManage integration takes place as an extension right within that, providing all of the inventory, the monitoring, the update, and then the ability to launch the integrated Dell remote access controller so I can see what's happening directly on that system, giving us the server cluster and the overall HCI management experience that we're looking for. And I talked about the automated cluster creation, and this is great stuff because when I get my systems, I want to know that they're all the same. I want to make sure that all of the nodes have the same processors, the same memory footprint, they're running on the same platform, the storage is deployed with identical drives across all the nodes in the cluster. And I say, check, 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 check. I'm sorry, I don't say that. The deployment wizard says that. It says, hey, these are the things that I found. There's a newer version of this BIOS that's available and tested and validated for this system from when it shipped, between the time it shipped from the factory to the time you're deploying it. Let's update everything right now so that we start with a pristine environment and then automatically deploys it. And then the cluster monitoring and management, all of that real-time health status, not just of the nodes, but at the cluster, and even the components. I was talking about power supplies, fans, perhaps a drive or a network controller that's not connected, right? Being able to see that, have line of sight to it, and remediate it as required. And this is the really exciting thing for your ongoing operations, is the full stack lifecycle management with cluster aware updating. You don't go to support.dell.com and find this model and download the latest, greatest, Windows Server 2019 or Azure Stack HCI OS BIOS drivers and firmware. All you do is go through the OpenManage integration, connect to the repository for that update catalog, and you only have access to the tested, validated, and supported BIOS drivers and firmware. So you're never getting anything that isn't part of the solution. And it checks that out, says, hey, these are the things that need to be updated. Do you want to do this now? Yes, I do. But I can also schedule that for when I want it to happen. Peter, what do you call this? Margarita time?
I call it, yes. I call that margarita time, right? It's roughly, depending on which time zone you're in, but that's like 5 o'clock Friday afternoon-ish. Don't tell my boss that, because, he might actually require me to work a little bit longer. But, the interesting part is that what we've done is we've actually done a little bit of a study. And that study shows that we can save 95% of attendance time, i.e., looking at the system, waiting for the upgrades to be done, right? And what we're seeing here is you fire it off. Yes, you need to do 3-4 clicks to say, oh, okay, it's now scheduled. But the fun part is, after that, through cluster aware updates with no downtimes on your virtual machines or your containers, the system, the whole infrastructure will pretty much update itself. Now, what's nice about that is you don't have to watch it. You can actually set it up through things like, let's say, for example, Azure Monitor, and say, hey, Azure Monitor, if this process is complete, shoot me an email. If this process goes south, shoot me a text message. Let's assume that we don't look at emails over the weekend, but we do look at text messages, right? So that's the kind of stuff where you can do hybrid management, have Azure Monitor be in the cloud. You don't need to go and create a complete management or monitoring infrastructure, and it just saves you a ton of time. And I need to manage a couple of these clusters for our customer solution centers nowadays as well. That's not my day job. I am the self-proclaimed worst systems administrator on the planet. But the fact that this does not take me a whole lot of time makes it possible.
Now, I want to be cognizant of the time that we have here. And the thing is, Jeff and Peter and I love this so much, and we could go on and on and on. But where are we here? We are just about at noon Central Time.
We're just about at time. Just the one last thing I just want to say is, again, a huge thank you to Dell for having this session at Ignite. And the thing I also want to point out is, think about what Azure Stack HCI and this Dell solution is giving you. You can start as small as 2 nodes. 2 nodes. Think about that for a second. 2 nodes at the edge, and have a high availability solution. You can buy these and distribute these, manage them all from Azure. Think about the integration you've seen here from Dell. The fact that you don't have to go searching and hunting for drivers and firmware and BIOS, because trust me, I have done that a zillion times, and it gets really old. I'm sure we're all tired of that. Having it right here and basically going in Admin Center, and we just go to the Dell site and Dell hands us the right package. And guess what? You get the latest stuff. And it's not just the OS, it's the firmware, it's the NICs, it's the BIOS, it's everything. And so you've got that support. And then of course you've got Dell for support. You've got your end-to-end support there. So it's a full solution. So if you have questions, and I see a lot of people in the chat wanting some follow-up from Dell, I urge you to do that. Give Peter, give Matt a call and follow up here, because there is so much you can do. And again, we're just opening the door even further with new things like Azure Virtual Desktop at the edge.
Right. I'm going to stop sharing the presentation. Do we have any super exciting stuff in the Q&A?
There's been a lot of questions, and we've tried to answer as many as we could. Of course, if there's anybody that would like to talk to us after the fact, Matthew_Rotkus@Dell.com. And for me, it's even easier. It's just Peter, Pieter @Dell.com.
Wow, Peter at Dell.com. Good one.
Yeah, at some point I'll teach people how you can actually do that, but best kept secret from me. So if you need us, if you would like to chat, I have a team of at least 10 people that would love to have conversations with any of you that are very well versed on the subject. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that even though it was short, that this was useful, and we wish you a very happy show. And thank you for attending.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Peter.